The 32 atolls of Kiribati were settled by Micronesians some 4,000 years ago. Today, the island nation is fighting for its survival. If sea levels continue to rise, the islands may become uninhabitable. But President Anote Tong knows few industrialized countries are ready to make the sacrifices necessary to combat climate change.
Here we were confronted with a number of countries wanting to achieve more economic growth and arguing the case that, of course, they must not be tied down to these stringent obligations. To me, it's offensive, it's insulting.
Climate change has made this already poor nation even poorer. But even as President Tong prepares for the worst-case scenario of total evacuation, economic development must continue to avoid further hardship in the meantime.
The reality is that there is the short-term issue and there's the long-term issue. The confusion that a lot of people make is to put these two together. For the next 30, 40 years, we still have to deal with our daily problems, our annual, yearly problem, and so that must carry on. The idea is to encourage the development of the outer islands. There are people with more time to do it. We just need to be able to provide them with the opportunity, the skill, and whatever equipment they need.
Convincing development organizations to invest in a country that may not be around in 50 years is not easy. The UN agency specializing in agricultural development, IFAD, sent a team to Kiribati's most remote southern island to assess the situation. An agricultural research center has been set up to help identify food crop varieties able to tolerate rising temperatures and high levels of salt in the soil.
The overall goal is to enable people to produce their own grown food using locally available material, and also to be able to produce yield given all these climate change impacts that we are coping with. Once these people in the community actually take part in all these coping strategies, I think the impact will be very, very minimal.
Tong was invited to Geneva in June to take part in the Global Humanitarian Forum organised by former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan. Here, Kiribati's president had the chance to describe his country's fate. But while he needs help easing the hardship on his islands, he also needs help moving people off them.
I've got some ideas. In fact, we've already started programs in collaboration with the governments of Australia and New Zealand. New Zealand currently takes in 75 of our people on an annual basis as migrants. They're picked at random. If each country of this world would do that, I think we would solve our problem.
To give his people the chance for a better life abroad, Tong has set his sights on education. Training centres like the Kiribati Institute of Technology are now aligning their curriculum with countries looking for skilled labour. But so far, the only real deal has been struck with Australia. These nursing students will be trained and eventually offered jobs there.
Oh, I miss my culture, of course, my country, the language, and maybe the food. And the ocean. I think this is a good opportunity for me, not just for me, but I'm also the future of my family.
But only 80 trainees will leave this year, just a fraction of the tens of thousands of islanders who will need training if Tong's gradual evacuation plan is to work.
Julie, what has to be understood is we're gone, but somebody else is going to be gone next. We will be victims regardless of what happens. And we're just the ones on the front line now. And I think the point is, if nothing is done, then other countries and other people will be next on the front line. When do we start to sacrifice our standards of living for the sake of the future of this planet? The biggest challenge that I want to throw is, what are you going to do about the people that have become victims? This represents the It's the single biggest moral challenge to humankind. And if it doesn't respond to this, then there is no credibility to anything.
In the middle of the Pacific, a nation waits for answers. The islands may soon be underwater, and the people whose ancestors settled here 4,000 years ago will be forced to migrate once again.